This is the Hunt Quietly podcast. I'm Matt Ranella.
Now.
Yeah. How you doing?
Oh man. I think we're
What
living in
you eating under there? Milk duds.
crack, dude.
You're supposed to say underwear.
Yeah.
You know that joke?
No.
Somebody says, "What are you eating under there?" And you go, "Underwear."
Oh, that's good.
Phil's eating underwear. Nark, 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 nark.
You might need to take a paternity test after that, because I'm pretty sure that was a dad joke.
I got some news about your boyfriend.
Which one?
Gritty Bowman.
Oh yeah, that's definitely one of my.
You're a big gritty guy, aren't you?
Oh yeah, definitely.
So these guys I'm going bear hunting with this spring found out where he's been bear hunting the last couple of years, and that's where we're going to is his spot.
Oh wait, in Idaho?
Montana.
Okay. Is this part of the podcast?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Maybe we'll have to. I've heard rumors, but they're not credible. So maybe, yeah. Anyways,
yeah.
I think he's done
they
some
did a
bear
bunch
hunting
of
in Idaho.
He's done what?
Some bear hunting in Idaho, but
Oh.
I don't give those places away. So
Well, no, he didn't give this place away. He's just two young skookum, freaking smart dudes that are good with maps and imagery.
yeah, I mean,
Figured it out. They even know exactly where his campsite is.
right.
And they know where his freaking fire pit is. And they've never even been to this spot. And they know what time of year he was in there, because they were looking at the snow level from the videos,
Right.
And they were able to use SnowTel data to figure out about when that would have been.
Yeah, I mean,
I can't wait to go to their spot.
It's not that hard to figure out with tools that are commonly available.
How would you do it? I don't know how they did it. I mean, ask them.
10 years ago, before we even had GPT or, a lot of that real-time snow data, like one of the ways I've zoned in on where I deer hunt was an article in the local newspaper. And I looked at the skyline and thought, huh. And I found the exact tree that this gal had her buck. Like, she's sitting under this tree. And I mean, I was keyed in on the region, but that informed one of many scouting trips.
Okay.
But I still have a pin on Google Earth right there.
Yeah.
But now you just get Go Hunt Premium, and rumor has it tells you all about every trailhead. And
what do you mean everything tells, even maps tell you where the trailheads are.
Yeah, but information about specific hunting information about more specific areas. I don't have it, but it sounds like, it holds your hand in how to select certain tags, and they help you draw certain tags, and then giving you more high fidelity data about how to hunt and where to go in certain units.
Okay.
So I don't know all the details about it, but it just takes all the fun out of it.
Oh, it's ridiculous. It takes all the hard work. Hunting's supposed to be about getting something with your wits.
Right.
Not with technology.
Yeah.
Have you heard of this mapping software called Spartan Forge?
I haven't checked it out yet.
No, don't.
Well, I'm not gonna, I'm not, is it like,
It's these guys got some animal location data
right,
from, I think, from fish and game management agencies. Well, I don't know where else they would have got it, but
right,
deer, I think they did it with deer. I don't know if they've done it with elk or whatever. So they've got GPS data on collared animals, and then they did machine learning on those data to kind of generate a usage map. They're usage maps for large swaths of the country to help figure
right,
out where to look for the deer.
right. This is where they'll be this time of day
Yeah,
or this time of year.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't know. It does take the fun out of it. When you start using the tools of war to go after game, I mean,
yeah.
that's what this is.
So where do you think it should have stopped?
That's a good question. I think, I think some of these things are driven by the consumer. And when the consumer lacks any shame, the consumer being the hunter, right? I mean, it creates a market for this. But I think right where we lost the recording, I was mentioning that in Idaho, you can locate game with thermal optics and it's being done.
Really?
Yeah. So you can't have a thermal scope attached to your rifle, but you can locate game with a thermal. And
So you could they make a thing, you just point it into the woods and it picks up heat
yeah,
hundreds of
oh,
yards away.
it's impressive. Um,
You've played
when,
around with it?
yeah, I've played with military hardware. When I was in undergrad, I fought wildland fire on a National Guard range, and sometimes we would use it for firefighting. Um, the range safety officer towers would have thermal cameras, and like what they had is impressive. What's changed between then and now is
That was for detecting heat from fires a long ways away?
right.
Okay.
And it just so happened I was part of a crew that did fire suppression on a military range. So they had that hardware, but that was exclusive to the military when I was
Hmm.
doing this.
Yeah.
And the consumer grade stuff has really caught up. Um and I mean, I know people and have shamed them endlessly who've engaged in this behavior. But for
They
example,
take a heat seeking thing out in the woods and point it around looking for deer.
it looks like daylight. Like you can see a deer mouse across a canyon from 400 yards away.
Wow. And
And
you're seeing an image of that looks like the animal, or is it just
oh yeah,
a heat like a red blob on in your?
no, 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 no. This is. I mean, these are the weapons of war. If you've paid any attention, like to the war in Ukraine, there's tons of footage. Drone footage of these things that are equipped with thermal optics. So it
Oh,
picks up.
okay. It's for seeing stuff at night.
It's for seeing stuff at night, and instead of night vision, which works on infrared, and a lot of night vision is active where it shines an infrared light and it illuminates. Um, it picks up heat, so it can see a little bit better, well, significantly better through vegetation. You can see heat prints in the ground where animals have, laid down.
Recently walked or whatever.
Yeah, and then the sun comes up and you've got your daylight scope attached to your rifle and go after them, and that's completely legal.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's too far.
And I
I
mean,
guess
this is
before you can even talk about what's too far, you got to figure out what you're trying to optimize. I'm trying. I mean, with what I'm trying to optimize, I often say it's like I have a utilitarian perspective on hunting where I want it to bring the greatest good to the greatest amount of satisfaction to the greatest number possible. But I don't think that's quite right because I value hard work and I
Yeah,
want people that work hard to do better.
right. I mean, yeah, I mean, otherwise, why not just shoot them out of a helicopter?
Yeah,
Because that's the most effective way.
yeah, yeah.
So, yeah, it's and this is something our game commission has been aware of, and I've been at commissioner meetings and brought up, things in regard to hunter behavior. Um, when a friend of mine brought up, because you're only supposed to speak on one topic. Well, there's a lot of topics I'd love to speak with our commission on, but
I
you
know
know,
that you used to go to a lot of those meetings. Do you still do it?
I haven't for a while. I've honestly, it's almost like I've given up
Mm-hmm.
because these things have been brought up and they
Nothing
acknowledge,
ever happens.
but nothing ever happens.
You know what state is looking at technology real hard is Utah, your neighbor to the south.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have a commission, some kind of commission that's looking at try considering various ways to restrict technology use in hunting.
Right. Idaho is doing that. They've asked for participation from the public. Um, we'll see how it goes. So
Yeah.
they are they are kind of there's been some recent things with the landscape of our legislature changing where the legislature has passed laws liberalizing archery seasons, like methods of harvest um outside of what has normally been handled by our game commission. So they've legalized mechanical broadheads and lighted nocks. And
Oh,
that's something that in Idaho, I think the majority of bow hunters have been vehemently against. Yeah,
I why? Like, okay, the mechanical broadheads. I mean, I used to shoot them, but I
right,
but I was hearing about how they weren't as lethal, so I did away
right,
with them. Bladed knocks, anything that helps you find your arrow after you shoot at something, I'm on board with.
right. I could care less about that one. I think there's good enough data out there that, to say that mechanical broadheads are garbage. Um, I mean, from what I know of sharpening woodworking tools and looking at, the mechanism of action of mechanical broadheads compared to a two blade single bevel or even, a three blade fixed broadhead, it's dumb.
Okay.
And yeah, I think it was something guided by politics more than good science.
I don't even think they even fly any better. I mean, my
Learn to tune
broadheads
your
fly
bow.
just my broadheads fly just like my field tips.
Right. Tune your bow.
Yeah, right.
So it sure does it help a poorly tuned bow with accuracy? Yes. But, you know, get close and
Yeah,
make a good shot.
yeah.
That's what bow hunting is about.
Oh man, I was just shooting my arrows before we started this podcast. I was shooting like shit. I just started again. It's been way too cold to be shooting. But man, I have it's a perishable skill, you
It
know.
is.
And
It is.
it doesn't help that I just went to the gym beforehand. I find if I work out my arms and then shoot, it's not good. Have you
That's
ever noticed that?
garbage.
Have you
Yeah,
noticed? Yeah.
definitely. I do find when I start shooting my bow, the first range session, I feel incredible Like I just shoot and it's like I should not practice.
Oh,
And
I
then the
know. I know.
range session, it all goes to hell. And it takes weeks and weeks and weeks of repairing shitty habits. And
Yeah. I don't know what it
yeah,
is about the first time you pick up your bow after a break, but you're lethal.
yeah. I don't think I'm confident enough to take that philosophy hunting though.
No, no, no. I'm going to shoot 1,000 arrows a week.
Yeah, yeah.
That's an exaggeration, but I think if I shot 1,000 arrows a week, I'd be too destroyed to hunt.
No, we actually have a public range that's decent nearby, and I'll stand next to guys and they shoot like 15 arrows, in a round,
Oh,
and it's
wow.
regulated, but there's a line, and I usually fire one, maybe two,
Hmm.
so that I'm well rested and just focusing, on quality over quantity.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Yeah. I've had years like that where it's just 3 or 4 a day, you know,
right.
but people that are really good shoot a lot of arrows.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess you got to find what works, but there's there's some shenanigans you'll see at the public range.
Do you know what a collective action problem is?
No.
It's when,
This sounds like something related to data collection.
no, it's not.
Okay.
It's when everybody kind of, a lot of people fundamentally agree that there needs to be that something that a policy needs to be changed, but they're not going to do it unless everybody does,
Right.
you know. And there's a lot of that with hunting. Like, I'm not going to give up onyx, but if everybody does, I would.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Matter of fact, if everybody had agreed, I'd enthusiastically give up onyx,
Right.
you know.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm not going to go out in rifle season with my muzzle loader. But if everybody did, if we all agreed it was just going to be muzzle loader only,
Right.
then I would be entirely on board.
Right. Yeah. I there is an interesting study I'm sure you're aware of where it's kind of like a classroom environment. I'm probably butchering this, but and there maybe 8 or 10 actors in the room, and really there's only 1 or 2 participants in the study,
Everybody
and they'll
else is,
write, 3 lines on the board and say, "How many lines do you see?" And, the first person lies, and so do, you know, the people who are in on it lie, and then the participant in the study, like 90% of the time, lies with everybody else.
or they're, is it that they're lying or that they're like, I've heard of this. They put like a A on the board and people go, what is that? And all the people that are plants, they go to them first and they go, B, 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 B. And then it gets
Yeah.
around to the guy that's not a plant. He's like, B? Because he's like, doesn't even believe his own eyes anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've heard about that CIA experiment in the 50s or 60s where they have people come in to a prison and they say, okay, there's a guy behind that wall there. I'm going to ask him a question. If he lies, I'm going to tell you he's lying to give him a shock.
Oh, yeah.
And
That's
then there's a dial where you can turn up the level of the shock,
and
and it's
people
all
just
fake.
sign up. Yeah, but people sign up to
Yeah,
give
these
someone
people are
a scare.
enrolled in the study and they're like, he's lying, shock him. And they'll hit the shock button and there'll be somebody on the other side of the wall who's not being shocked, but he's going, ah, ah. And then they'll be like, okay, turn it up. And at the top end of the dial, it says lethal. And the vast majority of people be like, okay, turn it up to lethal. He just lied again. They will do that.
Yeah.
and they used, I think they tried, the goal is to try to better understand how people could join the SS and become Nazis.
Right. Right. That may have been kind of lumped in with the Stanford prison experiment in what's ethical in a study or not, because I would imagine that could mess with the participants.
What's this now? What?
Like the Stanford prison experiment would violate ethics for today's.
What it was it? The Stanford
They
prison experiment.
had a bunch of people acting as both inmates and guards, and things got pretty heinous with the treatment of prisoners. And this was like something on their campus where the guards really got into their roles.
They're
They were
not really guards.
No, they're just people who sign up for this prison experiment, and the study was ended.
Oh,
But it
okay.
really ruined some people's lives. And I know in psychology, we kind of discussed how this informs ethics in today's
Okay. Okay.
church.
Do you remember the gist of this study, what they were trying to discover?
Damn it. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yeah. You just broke up for a second. Don't worry about it. If it happens, I'll just hit pause and wait for you to come back.
Sure. What did you ask?
Do you remember what the gist of the study was? What they were trying to discover?
I don't know.
Okay. So anyway, you've been pretty reticent about coming on the podcast. It wasn't something that's been exciting to you, although you've been involved in the group for quite a while and built our website, the huntquietly.org website. So, and you said, I want to come on and talk about hunter behavior a little bit.
Yeah, well,
Lay some shit out for me. What are you thinking?
first to clarify, I orchestrated the website. My girlfriend Aubrey was a saint in doing the hard work of putting it together.
Yeah,
so I've got to give her credit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think listening to you early in the Hunt Quietly podcast before I reached out to you, you were hammering on hunter behavior. And I think that's one of the many things that's kind of gotten me fired up. And I think it's important because I perceive a change in hunter behavior over my hunting career. And for those listening, I'm 36 years old and I've been hunting since I was 12. So there are people who've hunted longer than me, and there are people who've definitely hunted shorter than me. But, personally, I've changed as a hunter, and I think a lot of people do. And if you don't, there might be something wrong with you.
Yeah.
But many of these things we've discussed as far as people's motivations for hunting. Is it for likes and fame, some sort of validation? And I think there has been a component of that for a long time. There have always been photos and gas stations and brag boards and things like that. But I think raised to the power of internet has dumped some fuel on that fire. And I mean, in Western states, I think Montana and Wyoming, I would imagine, are not that far away from Idaho. We have not seen an increase, from my understanding. We haven't seen an increase in the numbers of conservation officers in over 30 years. And Idaho is one of the fastest growing states in the Northwest. And a lot of the folks who are moving out here are moving out to hunt. So, I
There's
mean,
got to be way more hunter hours in that state than there was 10 years ago, 20 years ago.
it's unbelievable. And I really, the first hunting I did was big game, but early on I got pretty hooked on waterfowl. And I would say, I've done things like looking at Google Earth just because we used to have pins on every single place that we would duck hunt and both private and public. And I would say, as far as public places to go near where I live, I probably lost 2/3 and almost 100% of private land. Um,
So
well,
there's a lot of
well,
public land that's become private.
no, just access has been lost just due to development, or public places that were accessed through private land. So for example, the Boise River here, uh, a huge section of that has just been eaten up by subdivisions.
Okay,
Uh,
so it used to be that you would hunt there by asking permission from somebody, but now
right.
it's
Or there were public accesses and they may still be there, but it's a paved walking path.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And they've been annexed into city limits um, or you're just a jackass because you're hunting in someone's backyard.
So how far outside of Boise is this area you're talking about?
I mean, I covered a pretty big area anywhere within 2 or 3 hours.
Okay.
But
And what was the stat you threw out? You've lost how much?
almost 100% of private land, and I would guesstimate 2/3 of the public hunting areas, or places that I just don't go because they're so burned down
Yeah.
that you're more likely to get shot rained down on you from a skybuster than actually decoy a duck.
How has this impacted your success?
I waterfowl hunt a hell of a lot less than I used to.
Just because you know.
There are fewer good hunting days out there, and I'm
Okay.
more selective about the days that I go.
Yeah.
And I definitely put a lot more work uh into a good hunt
Hmm.
um than I used to. I mean, like these birds, honestly, at some point I just start feeling bad for them because they are so freaking smart. I mean, the hunting pressure is just unbelievable on these birds.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of broke up my thoughts into sections. I'd love to touch on that later. I was kind of thinking that I would go kind of as my hunting season progressed because that's how
Do you
my
want to talk about your 2024 hunting season?
yeah. I
Yeah.
I thought I'd talk about a little bit about 23 and 24
Okay.
because and there's just shit every year that I see, but as I go through the season, it paints a picture. And and I think one of the things I want to bring up is my experiences are anecdotal, but when I talk to other like-minded hunters, they agree or they're seeing heinous things out there, um, catching things on video, and they're calling conservation officers or the Citizens Against Poaching hotline, and the answer is we'll send a CO out there, or there's no CO within 2 hours, so get a license plate number.
Oh,
So
yeah.
people know that they're a needle in a haystack, and I think it's definitely emboldened behavior.
Oh, I can
Uh,
see that.
and again, this has a huge potential to impact public opinion of hunters. And as we've brought up, you the, the perception of the public is so important if you want to keep hunting rights because you're not going to get 51% of people
Hell
to
no.
hunters.
No,
If that's the case, I'm out.
we hunt at the pleasure of the non-hunting public.
Right. So yeah, I thought maybe I'd start with archery season because that's when my hunting kicks off. Um, and I I've definitely seen a pickup of hunters in the area where I archery hunt. Um, it's some of
How
the
many years
hardest.
you been there? Been going there?
I think almost 10 years now that I've been going there and archery hunting for 5 or 6.
Okay. You used to hunt there with a rifle, and then 5 or 6 years ago, you started hunting there with a bow.
Well, I've hunted mule deer in there, and then at some point I realized, like, man, the elk hunting in here is better than the deer hunting.
Okay.
And then a friend of mine um was really gung ho about it, and he just started working in Boise, and this is someone I worked with in the hospital, and wanted to get serious about bow hunting, and we just kind of went all in. Um, and yeah, I mean, it's hard work to get in there and hard work to get an elk out. Um, but we've seen an influx in backcountry hunting as just the promotion of backcountry hunting has made it the cool thing. And one of the first things that I notice is just like an increase of filth, trash, disrespect for public land. And it's hunters because these aren't backpacking destinations. There are very few backpackers in there. All backpack in there in the summer, and the trail is untouched. It's overgrown. It's very seasonally used. Um, and there's trash piles and campfires, and there's surface shitting that you start seeing in September. And um, so one of the things I kind of wanted to bring up, and we're kind of starting out small and getting bigger, I guess,
Okay.
but um, so the season before last, I guess this isn't really small, but um, we we generally camp in a similar location year after year. Um, we've really found that instead of putting on big hikes, we stay close to our camp and sneak out very carefully and consider the wind everywhere we go, and instead of just blowing out all the elk in a 10-mile radius. So we have this phenomenal glassing spot that kind of informs our next day's hunt. We'll glass in the evening and listen for bugles. And we saw, across the canyon from us, like 2 miles away on the skyline, oh, there's two other hunters there.
This is September of 23.
Correct. And next day, we get out of our tent and look over, and there's a column of smoke from where those two dudes were. So their little warming fire had caught, and it had potential to get really big. I mean, it was pretty dry year. And anyways, long story short, we were lucky enough. We get intermittent cell reception, and we were just lucky enough that like the signal was crystal clear, and I was able to call dispatch and give coordinates and get a helitack crew in there. So
A helitack? Is that like a helicopter crew?
yeah, helitack would be a helicopter firefighting crew.
Oh, geez.
That so not to mention our entire day of hunting was ruined because
You
they
got a
dropped the
helicopter
hand
buzzing
crew.
around. Yeah.
Yeah, and you've got a helicopter buzzing around, and I mean, we saw elk just running around like,
Really?
yeah. In like their path from water to that fire was like right from our camp away from us. So we just sat and watched them, doing bucket drops, and um but but let me close the door. The dog's going nuts right now. So Yeah, I did some digging and I tried to get some information from the ranger district there. Uh, Probably they called a little bit too late. I don't know if anyone's employed there right now, but uh,
And the answer to that question today has no bearing on what it'll be next week.
yeah.
We'll keep getting
So
fired and rehired and fired and rehired.
yeah, you still have your job?
Yeah, I'm expecting the old tap on the shoulder any day now, but I haven't gotten it
Oh,
yet.
well, yeah. I hope it's intact. We did so after the hunt. We did call, and I spoke with the ranger, and she said, they determined it was a warming fire started by hunters. And what I'm kind of curious about is what's the price tag of that? And that's kind of what I was wondering at. I did some searching. None of this is like citable data, but helicopters are expensive. People are expensive, hand crew and dispatch and all the resources that ties up. What I did find between National Park Service, U.S. Forest Service, and BLM reported statistics is that somewhere between 75 and 93% of wildfires are caused by humans.
Oh,
And then, and then up to 1/3 of human caused wildfires occur during hunting season.
oh, wow. Wow.
And yeah, it kind of offsets this, or it kind of really throws a wrench in this story that we hunters are the heroes of this landscape. We can't police ourselves, and
Yeah.
you know, our state taxpayers can't fund wildlife suppression as it is. So
Hmm.
I'm not buying that argument, that the Pittman Robertson Fund is doing enough for, just the cost of fire suppression alone. And
Oh, that's a really good point. I never thought about that.
yeah, and her response was like, "Oh yeah, it was a warming fire started by hunters." Like it was so routine that they
Okay.
get these calls.
Yes.
I did ask her a little bit. She said, "Oh yeah, every year, starting in September, we start getting a pickup of fires, and it's embarrassing."
When I first moved out west, I almost started one. I it was
Oh,
it I thought we put it out, and it was my brother and I, we were hunting in the
see,
mountains.
I was just gonna say, fucking meat eaters. Can we graph a trend of hunters started firefighters
Oh,
before
with meat eaters, with meat eater, with meat eater followership, probably. Yeah,
Oh, sorry.
we started a little fire to warm up, and then the next day we went off. The fire was nowhere near our camp, though, but the next day we happened through that area again, and there's smoke. We go over there, and it had gone underground. You ever see that? You
No
ever?
call. I don't know if the statute of limitations is up.
Do you know?
But
Have
it's
you ever
funny how
seen that
critical
where the
of other.
fire goes underground?
Yeah, it starts creeping through the duff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, I've had that happen a few times. Uh, the other times I caught it before
right.
earlier. I didn't go away for a day. But I've had two other times I can think of as I sit here right now where I'm sitting by my fire and I look 8 feet away and there's smoke coming out of the ground where it's snaked underground. You know,
Right.
I've gotten way better about it. And like I was a young, dumb kid and
Yeah,
didn't get down to mineral soil before I started my fire, you know.
right.
And those fires will snake around underground and pop up elsewhere. That's why there's fires in the spring in Canada and Alaska, is because those wildfires, they'll be smoldering underground in the duff way down there, and then they'll get a bunch of snow and it doesn't put them out. So the next spring they just perk right back up again.
Or burn in a tree root, and those things will burn throughout the whole winter.
So
And
what do you think what do you think it costs to put out that little fire?
I would guesstimate. I mean, just knowing, I did wildland fire for, gosh, don't quote me on this, 7 or 8 years. It's been a while, but you know, I have an idea how expensive things are, and it likely was. I mean, it almost certainly was in the tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah,
Um,
20, 30 grand.
right, and that's cheap in the wildfire, sense, but that's a lot of hunters to make up for that paying into Pittman Robertson Fund,
Yeah.
or how many taxpayers
Hmm.
does it take? And yeah, so a- again, I mean, I too am paranoid after doing dumb shit. So I guess I'm a bit of a hypocrite for calling people out, but it kind of flies in the
You could
face.
have it be that they were responsible people that just made a mistake, which if I had started a fire, that would be how I'd characterize myself. It's not like I don't know. Yeah, I wouldn't consider myself like reckless, but it's just even there's just way more people out there. So
Yeah,
dumb shit's going to happen even if people
yeah.
are generally trying to do the right thing. One thing that's interesting to me is
Well, they weren't. That I think I didn't mention there was a fire ban.
they shouldn't have been having a fire in the
They,
first
they
place.
shouldn't have had a fire in the first
Oh,
place.
well, that's a whole other wrinkle.
Yeah,
Another thing that's different than my experiences, even though some of the places I used to hunt are so crowded they're not worth going to anymore. I'd say even as I saw steady increases in hunting pressure to the point like before I abandoned these places,
right.
I didn't see increases in trash. So your area is just different in that way.
I don't know if it's an Idaho thing, but people just think like if it creeps
There's a
up,
lot. I bet
throw it in the fire.
you guys are just a trashier culture.
I think so. They use
You guys
plastic.
kind of got that anti-federalist vibe, like that fuck it attitude.
We back.
We're back
All right.
talking
Well,
about we were talking about how your state's a little bit the folks there are a little um anti-establishment.
yeah, yeah. They don't want to be told what to do.
Yeah. Um yeah, the home of Randy Weaver
And Claude Dallas.
and Claude Dallas, right. Claude Dallas Claude Dallas is the dude that killed two game wardens, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was kind of a prolific poacher, and you'll hear people say, "Well, the real story about Claude Dallas."
Oh, there's a rest of the story on Claude Dallas.
Yeah, in Owyhee County is like still just has this rampant poaching culture, and he was convicted of manslaughter, I believe, or maybe, but it wasn't first degree. He received a lesser sentence, and a lot of it may or may not have had to do with being the fact that he was tried in Hawaii County.
Oh, he had a sympathetic jury.
Yeah,
Okay. Didn't he? And was he was on the lam? I can't. Was he on the lam? He was on the lam for a super long time.
I don't remember everything. He did escape once and had a shootout with the cops. They got
Oh,
him again.
okay. Okay. Yeah.
So he
But
almost killed another cop.
there's some, oh, this is stupid to even be talking about, but there's some connection between Randy Weaver and Claude Dallas. Like one of them vowed to help find the other one, or like.
Oh, really? Yeah,
But yeah, I'm tempted to hit pause and look it up, but anyway, it doesn't matter.
sure, sure.
What's your next story?
Yeah, well, I mean, just to conclude on that, like you would think that this view that backcountry archery hunters want us to portray are these, you know,
Stewards of the great
yeah, and it's
outdoors.
just not. It's not the behavior I see. Um, this one, talking about general rifle mule deer season is something that in Idaho I'm just about ready to just give up on. Um,
Why is that?
just it's hard to have a hunt that isn't ruined by some jackass. Like legitimately hard to find deer, go after them, and not have someone ride on a non-motorized trail and blow things up.
Oh my God.
I mean, this has happened to me dozens and dozens of times, and I'm not exaggerating.
What
Uh,
happens when well, okay, yeah, they're understaffed, so you report it and very little happens.
oh yeah, and in the times that Fish and Game is able to do a sting, I talked to a CO in in the unit that I hunt for both deer and elk when I do general season deer. It's in the same unit. I'll hunt.
Just ladies and gentlemen, so you know, a CO is a game warden.
Yeah, he and his partner would camp out at the same trailhead year after year, and they would camp out at this trail. I'll explain the rules in a second, but they'd camp out at this trailhead in the dark and catch people as they rode out. And he would average like 30 citations a year in one day.
They're riding their motorcycles on a trail they're not supposed to,
Yeah, so okay,
or
this
quad
segues in
runners,
a
or side
good
by
time
sides, or whatever.
to explain one of my other gripes, which is the enforcement isn't there and the rules are poorly designed for an environment with a lack of enforcement. So this is a non-motorized hunting unit. There are some trails in there where you can ride an ATV or dirt bike. So they're
Okay,
U.S. Forest Service motorized trails. If you are hunting, you have to stick to the main roads. You can use the motorized trails to drive in a camp or to recover game,
okay,
but you can't hunt
yeah, that
from.
makes it hard to enforce right there.
Yeah. So what does everybody do? They put a $25 Walmart tent on the back of their ATV. So the enforcement agency, whoever's the conservation officer, game warden, his strategy, he and his partner would go in at 2 a.m. and camp out next to this gate and write down license plates or whatever they could see in the dark. I don't know how they're doing it. And as these guys came out in the afternoon, he'd stop them and write them a ticket because he saw them going in and out. They
Oh, and
could.
they're allowed to go in there and camp, but they're not allowed to go in there and come out the same day.
You're not allowed to just ride and to road hunt from your ATV, basically.
But you can go in there and camp.
You can drive a camp in, set up your camp, and then hike from there and hunt.
Oh,
Or if
that's
you shoot an
impossible
animal,
to enforce.
it is fucking stupid.
That is the stupidest rule I've ever, like, that's so gray.
So, and then
But
on,
what about, could you drive along the road and park and then go off hunting?
yeah.
Well, then why, how, I would just tell these guys, these game wardens that are at the gate, I'd be like, no, I wasn't hunting off my four-wheeler. I just drove back there 3 miles, parked it, and then went hunting.
Well, right. But they'll catch a guy on their four wheeler and they'll say, well, I'm not hunting. Well, you've
Well, you
got a
wouldn't even have to say
rifle.
that. You could just say I was hunting, but I didn't hunt off the four-wheeler. I just parked the four-wheeler.
Well, if they catch them on this trail, on an ATV trail hunting, and it's not a trail that you can drive your truck on. So they're designated by the what the travel management plan of right. Forest Service will have a travel management plan. It says, these roads you can drive on, and then these roads you can ride a four-wheeler on, and these roads you can have a mountain bike, but no motorcycles or e-bikes. But anything that isn't a road that you can drive a full-size vehicle on, the state law says you can't, you have to hunt on foot. So
Okay, but couldn't they be, all right. I'm not going to
it's
play
stupid.
this.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. I'm having trouble explaining it to you. So your, your average Idaho, 49th in education funding high school diploma holder. And the reality is they play dumb, but they know a lot of, you have a mix of new hunters, but you have people who have been in there generationally and
How is it that there's there's not more conservation, that there's not more game wardens when there's way more hunting revenue being generated?
that's a great question. So there's a sign in the area that I like to hunt that gets ripped out on opening day. So Forest Service puts in a Carsonite sign.
What's that? Carsonite.
It's like fiberglass, like one of those brown fiberglass posts that they pound in.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens on opening days? Dude just runs the thing over with this four-wheeler. And
The
then,
sign says no driving on this road.
well, no, it says ATV use only, right? Like, so that's an ATV trail. The state hunting rules say that ATV can only be used for game retrieval or to set up your camp.
Okay.
But then everybody else after, even though they know the sign is there, they're like, sweet, the sign's gone. I don't have to run it over. Someone did it for me.
Okay.
And they all play dumb. And I know they're playing dumb, but and the reality is the regs do say you're responsible for looking at the travel management plan and knowing.
Even if there's not a sign there, you need to know.
Even if there isn't a sign there.
Yeah.
Um it hasn't changed the travel management plan. But anyway, so that's part of the stress is just the rules without teeth. Make
Right.
it
Okay.
make it hard for someone who does want to follow the rules. And I
Yeah.
don't have anything against using an ATV to get somewhere and hike, but uh it's kind of
Oh.
stupid to just freaking road hunt off of one.
Oh. There's nothing I hate worse than being out hunting and hearing of a four-wheeler coming.
Yeah, my buddy calls it Nitro Circus.
I just I don't hunt places where it's even a possibility,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, and unfortunately in this unit, some of the best deer numbers are where this shenanigan or these
Okay.
shenanigans go on.
Okay.
And so this year it really hit home because I took time with my girlfriend who has expressed interest in hunting. And I think we had a 5-day hunt. And in the course of that hunt, just walking in there, we backpacked in from where you are supposed to park and walk in. And I think
You- You're
in the
getting
first,
covered in dust by dudes buzzing by you.
yeah, we turned around. I think just walking in, we turned around 2 different ATVs. I
Oh,
had been
like
there.
they're like, oh, there's a guy actually doing it the right way. I'm not going past him.
No, they'll go and like talk. And I'm like, dude, you're not supposed to be here.
Oh, I see.
Oh, I didn't know. OnX says I can be here. I'm like, dude.
Okay. All right.
So another thing worth mentioning in that area, I'd been there a week before with the friend, Um, and he was fortunate enough to get a deer despite shenanigans. And we ran into this moose that, as they typically are, just freaking dumb and terrifying. When you're in the bottom of a canyon and you're in a standoff with the moose, he's running around like an idiot. So when I came back with Aubrey a week later, the same moose was dead with all four legs sticking in the air.
What?
And I'm pretty sure somebody shot it.
Oh, it seems highly likely, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, this thing was fine. So, yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, maybe not, but that's what comes to mind to me when I see
Yeah.
something dead, like kind of fresh dead during hunting season. You know,
Yeah.
it's not like there was 5 feet of snow on the ground.
No, no.
Yeah, somebody shot it.
Someone absolutely shot it. Someone with an elk tag.
Yeah, yeah, they probably did. Probably thought it was an elk.
Which, I mean, it's just unexcusable, you know? So that immediately, like, as soon as I see that, I'm in a sour mood. And I'm
Sure.
trying not to be, because this is my girlfriend's first hunt. You
Okay,
know,
this is the first time she's gone out.
yeah. And every morning I get out of the tent and I look up on this hill, and the first thing I see when I start glassing, four legs sticking up in the air.
Oh, um, you know, I'm aware of 2 cases in Montana where dudes have shot llamas, feral llamas, thinking they were elk and loaded them in their vehicles thinking they were elk.
Yeah, there have been a couple dogs shot this year that people thought were
Oh,
kind
wolves. Oh, coyotes.
of wolves. Yeah.
Did you get, she didn't get a deer, I take it.
So she did not, thanks to hunter behavior. Um, so we, s- you know, have a limit for her in her shooting, a range. We've been seeing deer. Um, And one morning after freezing our asses off, and by the way, she was a trooper for putting up with it, because I thought, oh, I've ruined this. And I think she was
What
at,
day is it? What day? Set the scene, man. What day are we on?
I think day 3 or 4. So we
Okay.
seen
Okay.
deer, and
And you're
I'm
4 or 5 miles back there and you
no,
come up.
it's only 2 miles back to our camp is a pretty easy walk. But from
Wait,
there,
how many
right,
far is it from the truck where you parked to the camp? That's what I'm
I
trying to
think
get.
it's 2 miles.
Okay. Okay.
And from there, you know, and that campsite is because it's close to water. From there, every day is a pretty brutal hike.
Okay.
Um, we start out in this particular area in the mornings. We start out low and we hike up. You can actually spot more from the bottom just because the way the terrain is. It's kind of everything's kind of convex there. So
Okay.
if you're at the top, you don't see a lot of the bottom. Um, And I think I was pacing back and forth, thawing out my boots, and Aubrey has some game eyes. She goes, "Oh, there's a buck right there, and there's a nice buck." And I'm like, "All right, cool, let's go."
How far away?
I could have shot it from right there,
Oh, geez. Okay.
but yeah, I think our limit was 200 yards. That we decided on. So, um, and
You understand? I don't know if you're saying a half mile, a
no, I think
mile,
it was
or
400 yards.
okay.
Um, so we kind of started a stalk. It was kind of weird because we had to like walk away, like we didn't see them, you know, and then hide behind
Because
branch.
he's sitting there stink eyeing you. He knows
Yeah,
you're there.
but he's also a little distracted by does. This is end of October. And he's scent checking does, and I think there were two forkies or a forkhorn and a spike, and she saw that buck and was like, "Oh yeah, I'll shoot that."
Okay.
Like she already has the bar set high.
Okay. Well, if there's a bunch of them standing there, you might as well shoot the biggest one.
Heck yeah. But she felt that excitement, which was really cool.
Okay.
And we started making moves, and he was sent checking the does, and right kind of as we got in position, I think he slipped out of view. And then I said, let's just wait it out. He might come back. And in the back of my head, I was like, he's gone. He's going to cruise on to the next does. But I was like, you want to shoot the fork horn? I want to see if he comes back. So she dry fire murdered that fork horn about 100 times. And then we
That's
kind of had
good. That's good practice.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And we kind of had a conversation while she's dry firing, and she's like, "Well, I guess we only have one or two more days left. Maybe I'll shoot the fork horn." And I'm like, "Yes." And right, I was like, "Okay, cool." And like right as she's ready, he slips, and the rest of the deer are kind of they were looking at us. They're being surprisingly dumb mule deer, and they kind of slipped into timber. And I thought, okay, let's see if we can go after this 4 point, because I think I know the
The
direction
4 point's the bigger one.
yeah, and I'm pretty
Okay.
sure he left. Um, and I wasn't going to go crashing into timber with a new hunter, right, bumping deer, and she's not ready for that kind of shooting.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You wanted a
And
real controlled situation.
yeah. And which is fine, if you have time on your side, wait for them to come out in the evening. And that was kind of our plan. But I thought, maybe we'll relocate this nice buck, and we put a nice hike up and got high and glassing in different drainages. We had a warming fire. I scraped down bare mineral soil. uh yeah. And there was snow on the ground too.
I
But
like how you call it a warming fire. It's like, what the fuck else would it be? I guess a cooking fire.
yeah, I got that name from the Forest Service chick, I guess. I've never heard that before, but yeah, it started getting cold. But we saw in the bottom where we were camped out that day, I think we saw two four-wheelers ride in, and they ride in, turn around because they didn't see anything from their four-wheeler, and then some dude driving his like Land Cruiser or some shit. It's amazing he didn't roll the thing.
And this is off road.
This is off road. Yeah.
Okay. So this is clearly a
Yeah.
no.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
And oh yeah, and this gang of dirt bike chicks with the UTV too, all in this day. They do the same thing. So no deer are coming out. And when this particular day, we started seeing a lot fewer day because you get enough guys riding in there and they just hunker down.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And then it's getting towards evening, and I'm thinking we should probably get back into position where we saw those deer, because we know there's a couple little bucks. We'll fill your tag and we'll be happy. And above us on this massive hillside, there's this illicit trail that was just made by people riding. Like there was no road there 10 years ago, but redneck gets courage and everyone goes another 100 yards more. And by now it's just a dusty trail in this side by side that's got about 350 or 450 pounds more in the passenger side, like listing, uh, is coming down this fucking mountain.
Why did it have so much more weight in the passenger
Because
side?
the dude's so badass.
Oh, and the other
But
dude
like,
and the dude in the driver's side was skinny.
yeah, in Aubrey's just like, man, this, like, I see why you come home so angry sometimes. Cause like, here
Yeah,
we
this
are,
sounds awful.
we're doing this work. It's a beautiful place too. It's just beautiful. And like, you do this work and we hike up like 1,800 vertical feet, and just to see some guys, in their
Yeah,
rig.
buzzing right by you that aren't supposed to be buzzing by you.
Right, right. And that kind of soured our mood, and the sound puttered away, and okay, we kind of doing the thing where we're up high and we'll look down at a different draw, and I'm like, okay, it's time to kind of get in position, because I have the area figured out pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
And right as we're about to do that, we hear like 7 or 8 shots, and it's just like, fuck, it's over, it's done.
Yeah.
And then by the time we get there, the big fat guy's like hanging off the side of the ATV, and they're pointing back and forth, and the young guy runs up and drags this little deer down. They gut it in the creek, just leave a gut pile in the creek.
In the water?
Like drags the gut pile in the water,
Oh,
throws
okay.
gloves in the water.
His
And
gloves.
yeah, just they're done, toss them. One of them lands in the water, the other one lands in a well.
What in the hell? That is
And
so bizarre.
it's, it really,
I mean, if they want to throw their gut pile in the river, fine. I mean, it's not what I would do, but it's not like,
right.
But your gloves?
Yeah, just toss. Yeah. And we're sitting there, and the does we can see them. I think they can look down, and they're like, dang, Timmy just got shot.
Uh-huh.
It's kind of sad. I shouldn't even say kind of, it's sad, and like I said, hunting is a violent thing, but it's just so much more homicidal when you just cheapen the experience to
Yeah, yeah.
drinking beers and shooting deers
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
out
Yeah.
the fucking window of your side by side.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
And it just, it just was a bastardization of the whole experience.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just,
I mean, yeah, yeah. Well, okay. I mean, there's a few things going on. Let's say somebody was driving around, had permission to hunt on a ranch, and they're driving around on the ranch road in their pickup, and it's their buddy's ranch, and they're hunting, and oh, there's a deer or an antelope, and they whack it off the hood. I mean, it's not how I want to hunt,
right.
but I'm not going to be offended or be like aghast, like, oh, the
They're not
the nerve, but these guys are on an illegal road and they're messing up your hunt, and they shouldn't be even allowed to be there messing up your hunt. You did the hard work to get in there. You're back in there camped out, dealing with the elements just to have like a little bit of solitude. And then they are littering,
Yeah. Well, again, it's Idaho. That's to be expected.
I just don't understand. It seems like the hunter hours should be proportionate to the number of game wardens. As the number of man hours, hunting hours goes up, you should be able to afford more game wardens.
Yeah, in my understanding is the legislature has limited, I think even if Fish and Game wanted to increase the force, the legislature has had this really interesting relationship with the Idaho Fish and Game, where every year during the legislative session, they almost make a game out of just beating up Fish and Game.
Oh, same in Montana.
And
they have an adversarial.
Yeah.
They have an adversarial perspective on FWP. You know what?
Yep.
I don't know how you feel about I'd be curious. That'll be my next question, but I have warm feelings about Montana Fish, Wildlife, and Parks. I know many people that work there.
Yeah.
They all are smart, hardworking. They try to do the right thing. Not only that, they work to improve hunting in their off-duty hours. Like with hunters for access. a lot of our volunteer staff for work projects and stuff like that are people that work for FWP.
Yeah. Not to mention sacrificing, they work hardest during hunting season.
Yeah.
And
So I'm curious, how do you view, what is it, Idaho Fish and Game? Is that what it's called?
I'd say my view's kind of nuanced. I mean, I have the utmost respect for our law enforcement guys in there. And and I
About the
would
biologists.
yes, I would say some of the policy decisions like towards R3 are puzzling to me.
That's
Um
probably more the state. That's the politicians that drive that.
the politicians and the commission, yeah, and
Okay.
I think
Right. Right.
I've seen a lot with the most recent directors kind of directing the department towards those efforts.
Yeah.
Um,
And we have that too. They have they got their big
yeah,
time. And, and I don't know but I don't think of that as coming from the game wardens
no,
or the regional director like, we have 7 hunting regions. I don't think of it even coming from those 7 regional directors. I think it's more coming from the game commission, which is appointed by the state, by the governor,
Alex as well.
by the governor. And our governor just thinks of hunting as a revenue generator. That's all it is to him.
Likewise, yeah, yeah.
So, and they just see, oh, more hunters, more Pittman Robertson dollars, more license sales. Like the quality of the experience never even is not. It's not. It's not embedded in the decision making calculus at any freaking level. Same with everybody except the Hunt Quietly movement, the nonprofits, the hunting celebrities, the fish and game management agencies. It's this resounding march. More hunters, and they never ever stop to even consider
There's an
what
upper
a
limit.
horrible impact more hunters has on the existing hunting community.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, likewise, I think it's a pretty similar landscape. And in fact, so my deer hunt, I had a late season deer tag.
We're going on to the third. Okay, we've
Yeah,
covered.
well, I think talking about fish and game and some of the hard work that those employees do, it's just mind blowing. Honestly, some of those guys do. So my friend and I hunted in a pretty remote area.
This is 2024 now.
Yeah,
The Aubrey hunt. The Aubrey.
That was also 24. Yeah. So
okay, and the wildfire hunt was 23. Okay,
correct.
I don't know why I always got to keep the timeline, but I do.
No, yeah, it's important, and my story isn't rehearsed, so I apologize about.
No, we're working collaboratively to lay this shit out clear. And I'm
Yeah,
just an audience member, I don't know what you're going to tell me. I'm just listening
yeah.
and interrupting a lot, as I'm wont to do.
You're interrupting is fine. uh, so yeah, my friend and I, and if anyone, I'm not giving away any secrets by saying it's a remote hunt that requires for most of that unit flying in.
Okay.
And
It's a fly-in hunt.
or a serious move on stock. And in
what? What?
on
Serious move?
stock, like you got to cover.
Oh, stock.
Yeah,
like horses or mules.
yep. And my friend and I actually ran into a conservation officer in there, a younger guy who was there with some mules, and he's pretty cool. In fact, we wasted a couple
He
hours.
was doing enforcement off of mules.
He was doing enforcement off of mules, and he checked us out. And we just had a long talk about hunter behavior with him and the things that he's seen. And in fact, it's kind of funny because at some point my buddy and I said, like, dude, it's getting dark. We're hiking up, 1,500 feet. Like, we got to go. So, and he said, yeah, I got to get going too. But um, so he told us, like, he had some pretty nice mules, and his camp.
Riding mules?
He was riding one, and then I think he had his camp on two.
Okay.
The mules were his, the tack was his, the tent was his.
Wow. They don't
What an
supply him with any of that stuff?
and you know what starting pay is for a fish co-op in Idaho? It's like $23.50 an hour,
Oh, wow.
which is
No
just
wonder. Well,
embarrassment.
okay.
Yeah.
But it's not that. Okay, let me ask a question, a clarifying question. Do you think it's not that they can't find people? It's that there's not a bunch of unfilled positions. It's the positions are full, right?
The positions are largely full. I do know when there's an unfilled position, it takes a while to fill one.
Okay.
But it doesn't help with their retention.
Shit, no.
Like the Owyhees was, like I said, Claude Dallas territory until November of last year, had no CO dedicated to that area for like 2 years.
Oh, okay.
It was lawless.
Yeah.
Uh,
It was a hunting influencer's wet dream.
yes. But yeah, I mean, just talk about an embarrassment. This guy really put his heart and soul into this.
That's $44,000 a year,
Yeah. And
roughly.
and
I
I
can't
don't,
think in terms of hourly anymore. It's weird. When I was young, I couldn't think in terms of
oh,
annual,
yeah.
and now I can't think in terms of hourly. But that's a pretty meager salary.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
think there is some help with housing with some of the assignments, but you don't really pick where you live in the state either.
right? Well, you don't apply for the game warden position in Pocatello or the game
I
warden
think you may
position.
be able to suggest preference or something, but at the end of the day, you don't get a choice.
Mm,
In part of the interview process is, are you okay being sent to any part of the state? And they won't hire you unless you say yes.
oh, okay.
I mean, talk about a pretty tremendous sacrifice, because there are some parts of, I love this state, but there are some parts that I'm
I'd want
not.
to live in. I'd be hoping for Wallace.
Yeah.
I would love to live in Wallace. I think that area is
Yeah.
beautiful.
So on this
You ever go
particular,
hunting in Wallace?
I went to school in that general area. I went to school in the northern part of the state, University of Idaho.
Okay.
At least the first part of my undergrad. Go Vandals.
Uh,
Uh,
I, I, I've always been curious about that area. I've spent a little time there. We had when I was living in Bozeman, I had some friends that lived in Seattle, and we'd meet in Wallace for a few days
yeah.
to mushroom hunt and fish or whatever in the summer. One time we were camped out and in the back country, well, like along a logging road there, and we were like, let's go into Wallace and party it up.
Oh yeah.
And we went and we ended up crashing this wedding. We went to
That
this.
sounds like a North Idaho thing, man.
We went to this wedding. We were dancing and eating all the food and having a ball, and people were like, happy we were there. Then somebody caught on that we weren't invited and threw us out.
Oh dang.
Do you know
Yeah.
about the there's like a thing where they put a ball in the creek upstream of Wallace, and then everybody in town bets on how long it's going to take the ball to float into town.
Oh, that doesn't surprise me. It's almost in some ways kind of like the Midwest. Um,
They
it,
also the last whorehouse in the Western U.S.
yeah,
Last operating whorehouse was in Wallace.
yeah. Um,
All right,
yeah.
I'm sorry, I don't know on
No,
that.
we're talking about yeah. This
I'm a little sleep deprived, so I'm just kind of like jumping around a lot and getting you off track. Go go
I
ahead.
talk in tangents. So, uh, anyways, that CO, that's kind of what I thought was a good segue into this particular hunt. Um,
Okay,
so when my friend and I flew in, uh, so we're going back in the timeline to us flying in. We were also sleep deprived because we drove and flew in the same day. It's a long drive, so
okay.
um, we landed and before, like literally before we come to a stop, I'm in the co-pilot seat and there's a dude with a fucking camera pointed at us, like pro camera rig, and I recognize him as one of the hunting YouTube stars. Um,
Who?
oh gosh, it'll come to me.
Okay. I
It'll
thought you were
come.
being cryptic, but you just can't.
No, he and I'm like, oh great, here's another one. Granted, this is a wilderness area, and are required to get a film permit. I don't know if you did or did not.
Right. There's some bill that would make that no longer a requirement.
Yeah, and this guy used to work for Idaho Fish and Game. Um, Clay Hayes.
Clay Hayes. I've never heard. He's a hunting influencer.
Yeah, so he's big on like trad bow and flintlock stuff. So he had his flintlock and his whole camera crew there. And so like my buddy and I get out of the
Of
plane. He's like,
course. Like, which is it, dude? Are you primitive or are you like a YouTube douchebag? Because so you got a camera crew
yeah,
and a recurve.
yeah.
You know, like,
Well, he had the flintlock this time on
or
this
the
hunt, but
okay,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. And
And
my
that,
buddy's
I
like,
know that's never dawned on me before, but it's just like that. It's so self contradictory. Are you old school or new school, dude?
you're
You
right.
know, Clay
And
Hayes. I'm gonna look him up. I bet I'm gonna hate him on sight when I just see his.
I made a comment on his page, which was something to the effect, he's a tasteful content producer, but like,
Which are the
man,
worst ones in terms of
yeah. And I basically said, respectfully said, like, you know, we we're the dudes that landed after you, and uh, you just put our area on blast. And he said, oh, I'm really pumped
how did he do that?
by filming this hunt in this area. It doesn't take
Oh,
much.
it doesn't take much work.
I mean, you can find out what airstrip it was and everything.
Okay.
It doesn't take that much homework to figure it out.
No, this guy's everything I hate. I
And
Oh my god, yeah. No, okay. Oh, I did not need to see this. I just looked at his Instagram.
yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Oh, oh.
I think
Like,
I think he was on a TV
how is it
show.
that it's so hard to get people to understand how destructive that crap is and how much better hunting would be if people just did it for the enjoyment?
Yeah,
I don't understand why this is such a hard point to make. The only I've been thinking lately, I'm almost tempted to put out a poll and ask the question: do you value hunting or hunting media more? Which do you value more?
you're not
Hunting
going to get
media or
well.
hunting?
Yeah.
Because if it was like majority of people valued hunting media more, then I would just close up shop. I'd be like,
Right.
oh, okay,
And I don't think
okay.
people are honest with themselves on that, though.
Or they're just too stupid to see that being on board with one is antithetical to being on board with the
Right.
other.
Right. Just find another trailhead, dude.
Yeah, right. So anyway, okay, you fly in. This douchebag with his flintlock is there,
In
filming you.
camera. Yeah. And
Why
Sony
isn't
8.
he off hunting deer? Why is he standing on the strip
Well, no,
filming other people?
I think we were the second round of flights in, and they might have been the first. So they went in the same day we did.
Okay.
Um,
Oh, so he can't hunt till the next day.
fucking Idaho, you can hunt the same day. You just can't use aircraft for your hunt. But if you
Okay.
see a deer while you're flying in,
You can
I think it's still.
land and then stalk over there and
Yep,
okay.
yep,
Okay.
which is ridiculous.
But all right. So anyway, this hard ass Clay Hayes. It's like a hunting influencer name,
Yeah, in
Clay
this,
Hayes. So instead of being out there with his flintlock, me and Mr. Badass, he's out standing there in the airstrip filming other planes as they come in.
yeah, because you got to get the shot of the landing.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway.
It's just like you got to get the shot of you hiking past the camera. So you set up the tripod and go back.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Okay. All right.
so yeah, the airfields can be a bit redneck. It's amazing, like the wall tents people fly in. People will spend thousands of dollars hauling big camps in. So,
So people camp on the airstrip.
oh yeah, and
Then
hunt.
why even fly in there? Isn't it that you're now in a very congested area?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
I'm
Um.
imagining that my dear friend Phil Lewer probably hiked off into the bushes several miles and hunted
Oh,
from
we
there.
did. I mean, we beat feet and then kind of set up a base camp. Uh, at least a half mile from the airstrip, and then went on 2 and 3 night trips from that base.
Oh, you spike camped from there.
Right.
Okay. Okay.
And
I would
when we
expect
saw the
nothing less.
when we
Okay.
saw the game warden, and my buddy, I think he's 50. He also has got the hustle in him. He doesn't want any of that shenanigans of being in the airstrip. And anyways, we had our hunt. We both shot deer, both pathetic in size. We saw some great deer, but that wasn't,
Oh,
you
you
know,
saw some big ones but couldn't get on them.
yeah, and we kind of self-imposed limits on ourselves where we had to shoot deer up close. And
Like what was your limit?
we
Your yardage limit.
well, we both did not bring range finders and had like fixed rifle scopes, like no turrets, no.
Okay.
Uh, and part of our thought, like, that's not how I always hunt, but we're checking out a new part of the unit, and we just thought we just want to see mule deer doing mule deer things, and you can shoot, well, we didn't care too much about the size of deer. We both have had, good seasons behind us and ahead of us where we shot nice deer. So, um, and
How far were the deer when you shot them?
mine was like 10 feet.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And, I was protecting the innocence of some fawns from this young buck who was
Harassing them.
misbehaving.
Okay.
Um,
He's a pedophile deer.
we named him Jeffrey.
Like, how did you arrive at that name?
Jeffrey Epstein.
I don't know why that didn't. I was like Jeffrey
So,
Dahmer. Yeah, okay.
no,
That is
my
funny.
hunting partner is an attorney, and the day before we were going after a nice buck with, as he described, malice aforethought, which is the legal definition for first degree homicide.
Malice of forethought.
Yeah.
Meaning like
So,
you're going after him
yeah.
thinking ahead of time. You're thinking, if I can get on him, I'm going to kill him.
Yeah. We ended up not
Well,
finding
that's,
that deer
I mean,
again.
go ahead. I'm just like,
So yeah,
anytime you go, you always have malice of forethought when you're
sure.
stalking something, right?
Well, yeah, so this particular deer where we went after with malice aforethought, it was very premeditated because we saw him 2 days before and had to go back to our spike camp and hike up completely different drainage to get to him. I mean, the distance between us and the terrain, it was impassable. So, um, we were defeated on that hunt. It was actually on our way back to camp where I told him, all right, the ball's dropped. If I don't come back with a deer, Aubrey's going to shoot me. And,
Because you're putting a lot of time and some money into this. And
yeah, and I didn't get an elk, so I had to bring something up.
okay, gotcha.
So yeah, the bar dropped. So this particular deer may not have been malice aforethought, is protecting the innocence of some young does.
Did the lawyer get one too then?
He did. And uh it he knows how to shoot. He took a couple of shots, and this is the difference between his experience putting multiple holes in a deer and what we saw later on in our hunt. Was he was tore up about it.
What?
Right? He had to shoot a deer again and like
Okay.
2 or 3 times and was tore up about it. And yeah, as you rightfully should be, when it doesn't go down as planned.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
And
Yes, absolutely.
so anyways, overall, we had a pretty enjoyable hunt up until the end. And, um, then we had to
Up
wait
until
out.
the end because you're saying he got a bad hit and it turned ugly.
Well, no, after we gotten our deer even.
Okay.
And
Okay.
then we were
Something
kind of,
else happened after you.
yeah. And then we were kind of approaching our fly out date, and we can use inReach. It's the pilot's preferred thing that you bring in the satellite messenger so that you can communicate with them as far as whether to fly.
Yep.
And we thought, okay, we should relocate to the airstrip. We thought, hey, we're done. We spent the day hiking and just enjoying the area, and then thought, we'll fly home tomorrow and maybe we can go spend a day or two duck hunting.
Okay.
And
You got
turns
your
out,
business done early.
yeah, turns out we were socked in at the airstrip, which is like we'd moved our whole camp, and then the storm just socked us, and nobody was flying. And it was just this cold drizzle, off and off snow and rain, I guess. But
How many nights were you stranded at the airstrip?
I think 2 nights.
Okay.
We had plenty of food and just enough whiskey to make it, though. So
Okay.
we were okay.
Was old
And
Flintlock Clay there?
we didn't see Flintlock Clay.
Okay.
Um, he'd backpacked out of there, I think.
He flew in and backpacked out?
He flew in and backpacks to his hunt, so
Okay. I see. Okay.
but there were still a couple of camps at the airstrip, and we set up so we wouldn't have to talk to people. And I don't know if it's 9 or 10 a.m. We're kind of just napping in the tent, like waiting the storm out. And we hear, "Hey, are you guys in there?" Yeah. Do you
How
mind
many
if
other camps are there?
I think there were 2 or 3.
Okay.
And I don't want to talk to other people,
Right.
That's why
Right.
we set up like the opposite end. And this guy, "Are you guys in there?" We go, "Yeah." He goes, "Do you mind if we shoot a deer?" And I'm like,
Well, that's kind of nice that they would even ask.
it was nice enough for him to ask. I thought it was pathetic, but I was like, "Yeah, go for it," thinking okay, these guys saw a deer from the airstrip and they're going to shoot it. And if that's what they want to call hunting, so be it. They weren't breaking any laws.
No, there are so many hunters that wouldn't even have asked. So
Right.
gotta give them credit
So
for that.
we're like, someone's going to shoot. We'll get out of the tent and watch this go down. And like, dude set up behind a $10,000 rifle. And he has,
A scope that looks like the Hubble
yeah, I know what the equipment
telescope.
is that he saw. And look, I know a thing or two about, you know, shooting long distance.
Yeah, you're
I
a
know what I
crack
know what he
marksman.
saw.
Yeah.
And just looking at the dude, he's setting up on this deer, and the deer is like 750 yards away across the river. There's it's snowing, it's windy, it's terrible conditions. Even the most experienced long range shooter would never have taken that shot. So we're like, are you fucking kidding me? And the guy behind it looks like he's got about $2 worth of range time behind this rifle, which isn't even one
Like
round.
his form is not right.
Yeah. And the next thing, his guy,
Okay, well, break that down for me. Well, what is he
well,
doing that a experienced marksman wouldn't
he's
do?
laying prone. He doesn't have any kind of rear bag. He's just,
Prone isn't good.
well, he's prone. He's got a bipod. He doesn't have any kind of rear support. So he's just
Okay,
standing
he's holding the back of the
there.
rifle up
Yeah.
manually. Okay,
And his face is cocked over the stock, and this is just
it just doesn't look pretty.
yeah,
Okay,
he's not lined up straight behind the rifle. There are a lot of things wrong with it, and
okay.
it one of their little troop leader, you could tell, like they had the one guy, you could tell what brand of hunting influencer they each followed by what they were wearing too. They were either all decked out in Kuiu or First Light, but they had pretty matching rifles. And the guy goes, "You may want to plug your ears because this is a 338 Edge," which, if you know anything, is like,
Weak sauce.
no, it is a massive, like, this is
Oh,
a fucking cannon, right? This
okay.
is the rifle where if you want to shoot something at 1,000 yards, maybe that's right. But it is a cannon.
Okay.
It got a muzzle blast enhancer on it.
What's
A
that?
muzzle brake.
Oh, like a silencer?
No, a muzzle brake.
What is that?
So a muzzle brake redirects the gas out the sides. Sometimes they're ported
Oh, so it makes
or
the
put it.
recoil less?
Yeah, because it redirects some of the gas to the rear to mitigate the forces of recoil. But they have an unintended consequence of just making a rifle ridiculously loud.
Oh. Oh, okay. Okay.
And we're watching so the guys behind the rifle, the troop leader is making adjustments on his turret. Uh, and and we overhear them making wind calls, and he says, like, that's a 5 mile an hour wind. And
That shit is something I'll never understand because how do you know what the wind is 500 yards ahead of you?
well, there are ways you can see by learning how to read mirage, and it was snowing, so that helps too. So the angle
I
that
could
the
see where
mirage,
50 yards in front of you, it's 5 miles an hour. 100 yards ahead of you is 20 miles an hour. At the deer, it's 0 miles an hour.
right? It's and look, very few people are talented enough to do that, especially to make a first round hit. But
What's
what
a
you're
first
doing,
round hit?
like, to kill a deer with one shot.
Oh, okay.
So, but the method essentially is like when you look at mirage and it's straight up and
What's
down,
mirage?
like the reflection coming off the ground. So when you're looking through a spotting scope, right?
Okay. The heat waves coming off.
Yep. And
But
so
when
if
it's
there's,
cold outside, I don't see heat waves.
you can still see it.
Oh,
It takes some
okay.
training with your eyes, but you can see if there's zero wind, it's vertical. in a certain wind, it will lean over, and from 0 to 10 miles per hour, you can, and by the
Oh,
angle
this is
that
interesting. Okay.
and
Okay.
so you can adjust the distance of your parallax to see what the wind is doing at different distances. These guys aren't doing that. They're practically licking their finger and sticking it in the air.
Okay.
In the snow, you can see there are about four different competing winds going upriver, downriver. And it's one of those where it's like, this is too difficult to make a wind call for the most advanced shooters, world class shooters.
Okay.
They would they would say there's no way I could confidently take that shot and hit a deer's vitals at
Okay.
that.
So a military sniper would have called off the operation.
Well, sure. Or if the intention is to wound the guy, is better than a miss, then
Then sure. Okay.
sure, right? But anyways, they may expect it's not going to be a first round hit. But so sure as shit, the dude torches off around and he misses by 2.5 deer lengths. And then not the shooter, but the scoutmaster reaches over and makes
I
another
love the
adjustment.
scoutmaster.
Yeah, makes another adjustment on his scope, and then he shoots again and misses by, he like the windage is a bit closer, but then his vertical's off.
Oh,
And
I'm so rooting for the deer at this point.
we
But go
are
ahead.
too, but we also know like these guys are just going to keep at it after the second
Yeah,
shot.
because it's so far away, the deer probably is munching away with no even clue that.
Well, I mean, the deer hears the crack and the bullet smacking the hillside. So he got up and moved, but he has no fucking clue where this.
So the first shot he was laying down.
He might have been standing. I don't think he was laying down. Yeah, and then after a while, the deer does lay down. It had moved a couple hundred yards and lays down, and then we
Further,
hear them say,
further. So now he's
farther. Yeah,
950.
I think 850 when we pulled out our rangefinders.
Okay.
And by the way, these dudes are blasting right next to our tent.
Yeah.
We can't really do anything. We can't resume our nap. There's a fucking cannon going
Right.
next to us.
Well,
And
ask.
the deer lays
Had
down
the
and he goes,
decency to ask.
yeah. The deer lays down and he goes, well, his vitals aren't exposed. And they're like debating back and forth. Well, why don't you just shoot to get him up
Oh my
and then
gosh.
shoot again? And
I could see where this would just really taint your hunt.
right. And so this goes on. The deer lays down, it stands up again, starts feeding, scent checking does. They send another couple
Unbelievable.
shots. So they're at it for an hour and a half. And my
How
buddy,
many rounds?
I think we counted 9 at
Okay.
the before it was all said and done. And it's like they're pretending they know what they're doing, but I think they've watched more YouTube than time spent on the range. My buddy and I are like, all right, we're done fucking watching this. Let's get some firewood. And we collect firewood because like I just don't feel safe going back in my tent next to these yahoos.
How
Like
far
at
is the
this point,
tent from where they're posted up?
they're kind of moving around. Like at one point they're to the right of our tent, another point they're to the left.
Within 50 yards of your tent?
Yeah. Oh, the whole time within 50 yards.
Okay.
So we like try to get a fire going so we can stay warm during the shenanigans. And they're just so cavalier about it, where it's really disturbing. And long story short, like the dude finally hits the deer in the ass and anchors it, and then takes another 1 or 2 shots to kill
Why
it.
wouldn't you at that point go up to it?
He could. That was the whole thing. They had a pack raft. He could have crossed the river.
Well, he's got to do that anyway to retrieve it.
Yeah. Yeah. And then their scoutmaster had come and talked to us about like sheep hunting in the middle of this, like in the middle of their breaks while they're waiting for the deer to move to a better position instead of just going across the river. And we're kind of like giving him 1-word answers. He doesn't get that we're like not impressed by
Yeah.
the shit show.
Does he think you're impressed?
I think he's trying to impress us.
So he's talking about his past hunting accolades.
Yeah, and like one of the sheep they saw, and I don't know sheep scoring, but he told my buddy, I saw what did he say, 180-inch sheep? I don't know. I could be off, but and my buddy's like, basically, he's like, bullshit. No, he didn't.
Oh, because your
But
buddy knows sheep.
yeah,
Okay.
so after this kid executes the deer, finally puts this poor thing out of its misery, he turns over from the gun and he goes, "Yeah, finally got it." And I think I said something to the effect of, "I thought you would have fucking stopped after you airmailed the first one."
Uh-huh.
At
You
that point, I
did.
think we got the message.
You did. You did. Like you lost your cool on him.
Yeah, and
Good. Good.
th- these dirt bags, uh, all went back to their tent, pumped up the raft. I think it was 4 of them in the party. And the poor sucker who shot the deer crossed the river by himself while they sat in the tent drinking beer
What?
and brought 1 game bag worth of cuts in the head.
And left the rest?
Yeah, I guess he boned it out and got 25%.
Unreal.
And this is normal to them. Like,
How many other deer had they shot on the trip?
I think they'd all tagged out.
Except that,
It's
well,
hard to tell from their fucking game bags with the way
yeah,
they,
yeah.
right?
Phil. No wonder you wanted to come on, man.
And this is just like, look, I won't, like I said, like my hunting partner, you know, felt remorse about the way his hunt.
Oh,
And these dudes, like, this is just
don't.
how they do it.
Their shit went totally south. They don't even take all the meat and they don't feel bad at all.
Yeah. And it's just like, oh, so this is hunting to you, just like lobbing rounds and like you do artillery.
This is
Get
this is the kind of story you will only hear from our group.
yeah, but this is when people brag about how I never saw it. We were like, well, do we call Fish and Game? I don't know. Are they going to catch him? Like they were flying to a different airport, and it's the way he can say like, well, this is all the meat from 2 hindquarters, a front quarter, and I've got my back straps and tenderloins. So he probably
I
didn't
just
break the
can't.
law.
I just can't imagine. I cannot. How, with the raft, it wasn't a 1-person raft, was it?
You could get 2 guys in it, like especially in that part of the river. It was a
Oh,
pack
okay.
raft, but
So
yeah,
okay, well, so maybe they only sent him across because just wasn't room. I'm just
they
like,
could have.
I
It's
would. There's
narrow
no
enough,
way. Let's say there was comfortably capacity for more than 1 person. There's just, I would never hunt with somebody that wouldn't get in that raft and go with me.
right? And if there was no way, then I would be on the other side
Oh yeah, not
by
drinking
binoculars
beer.
helping
No,
out.
yeah,
Like,
absolutely, yeah.
eh,
It,
eh,
these people just sound like immature, selfish, disrespectful, um, and I don't. Yeah, not people I want to be associated with as part of the hunting community in any way, shape, or form.
eh, yeah, and this is speculation, but you bet their Instagram post is like, you know, a
Got
little
her
brotherhood.
done.
Yeah,
Yeah,
hashtag long range.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, shot my deer at 850 yards.
So
And
you got guys like that, and then you got guys like Kuntz. You know,
yeah,
Kuntz. This is a kind of an abrupt. Well, it's not an abrupt change of topic. It's just showing the other side of the spectrum. Like these guys that you just described is just everything that's wrong with hunting. And sure as shit, there was an Instagram post.
Yeah.
And
Oh, well, I think I also remember the scout leader like trying to like show us photos of like his other animals. And it's like, dude, I don't fucking care. Like, I don't
yeah,
care what.
he's probably showing you them through his feed,
Right.
would be my guess. Um, but then you got guys like Kuntz, okay? And I've been thinking about him a lot lately.
He's a good guy.
He just raised 10 grand in this town for our nonprofit through going to local businesses, getting donations, raffling them off. They gave away, I wasn't here because I was with my llama who was getting surgery
Yeah.
in Colorado, but they went to these block management appreciation dinners. Block management's our program that
Yeah. Yep.
facilitates. I'm just saying this for people
Oh,
that
yeah. Yeah. Sorry.
facilitate. Block management's our state-run program that facilitates public hunting on private land, and our nonprofit does work to thank landowners for being enrolled in that program. And they have appreciation dinners. Fish, Wildlife, and Parks, our game management agency, has appreciation dinners to thank landowners for being enrolled in the program. And John John's our president and Miles is our treasurer. And they went to these dinners and gave out $8,000 worth of appreciation gifts. And this is a guy, he looks for no thanks, no attention, doesn't
Yeah.
even hunt block management himself because he's a tractor salesman and repairman. So he has more hunting permissions than he could ever frickin' hope to capitalize on. But he just cares deeply about hunting and about perpetuating hunt like high quality, publicly accessible, non-pay hunting. And when I think about the generosity that he exhibits and the selflessness compared to like what you just described, which is this, I don't know, this kind of perverse greed, like that
It's
makes you not care about ethics, not care about using the animal fully, not be concerned about like causing a bunch of agony for an animal that you don't even recover.
it's it's so close to homicide in my view. Where like it to me it is night and day different from when I kill a deer.
Yeah.
There's a certain component of sorrow and remorse that I feel, and this understanding that like, yes, I'm a human being and I'm a predator and, like I have a knowledge of it. And somewhere in my head is this drive to hunt, that I think is innate. But that behavior is just so fucked up. That's that's the person that in real life, turns the knob to electrocute somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
In fact, not just because I did so because I was ordered, but like, I don't care how I have to do this. And this is the pervasive thing. And I think this gets to the bottom of hunter behavior overall. It doesn't really matter how I kill this deer or whatever, as long as I kill it. It doesn't matter what laws I break or what ethical lines I cross. As long as I get a, a story that I can cut together and make me look cool.
Yep, that's exactly right. And and now it's coming back to me that you briefly alluded to this story in a text exchange a couple months ago when maybe it was when were telling me you thought you might be interested in coming on. I can't remember. Maybe we were just catching up after hunting season, and you were telling me like that you saw some shit and experienced some stuff that made you feel like maybe you wanted to quit. And I challenge you to not, man, because you're the kind of person we need in the hunting community. I hope you
Yeah.
don't, but I could
I hope
understand.
I don't too, but it's you can only hunt so much and regularly see this shit to just be like, I enjoy hunting. I'll never lose that. But when I have to put up with this, at some point, it's like, it's a cost benefit analysis where it's like, I can have an objectively good hunt, and then a scenario like that just completely ruins
Negate it. Yeah.
everything else.
Yeah. It's enough to make a man
It,
go, why don't I get some chickens and a couple sheep and get my meat that way or whatever,
that's yeah, and it's and these are just my stories. Like, I think last season my friend watched. He's fortunate enough to have a landowner tag for pretty sought after mule deer gifted to him by a neighbor every year. This neighbor
Oh,
gift
wow.
his landowner tag, and um, and so he, in one hand, he has this tremendous hunting opportunity. In another hand, he's in an area that's just right kind of for abuse and is an enforcement vacuum. And he was able to capture on phone scope these guys chasing down a herd of elk, just mowing down sagebrush and trying to gun an elk down,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
just in the most vile way. And I mean, my reaction if I see that, like, that just makes me want to sit down and cry.
Yeah. I, absolutely. Absolutely. It's just not, it's just like, yeah, it's just not why we do it. It's just not why we do it. And when you see people doing it for like with this sense of expediency, this sense of let's just get this thing down and probably get it on the Facebook or whatever, it's just, it takes something really beautiful and personal and sacred and turns it into something really ugly.
Yeah.
Oh, wow, Phil. Thanks a lot for coming on. This has been a great
Yeah.
discussion. And I'm really excited for this episode to air. It turned out way better than I ever, not that I underestimate you, but way better than I
It's fine. I'm constantly underestimated.
no, but no, this is, you've given me a lot to think about. It's been really, really good. So thank you, my
Yeah,
friend.
I'm even, looking at my list and I'm like, man, I skipped over
Well,
half.
let's do a part two. I
Yeah,
will reach out to you tomorrow morning and we can schedule
cool,
part two. How does that sound?
cool.
Yeah, we'll do. I mean, maybe we'll take a month or two, and you can collect your thoughts and look at your list, and we'll do it again.
Yeah, thanks for giving this air. I mean, I hate talking about it, but it's always good to chat with
Oh,
you.
this is freaking brilliant. So thank you. All right.
Yeah,
Good night.
take care, Matt.
Bye.